a man who went on to become our first great political leader. On Christmas Day in 1776, in the midst of the Revolutionary War, General George Washington launched a daring raid that culminated in the capture of numerous Hessian soldiers. They were foreign mercenaries known for their brutality who were fighting for the British. Despite what they had done to American soldiers, he ordered his men to treat them humanely. He said, and I quote, "Let them not have reason to complain of our copying the brutal example of the British Army." George Washington, the man who so influenced our national consciousness, who was so deeply responsible for who we are as a people, wanted the world to know that the new American Army did not abuse its prisoners of war. He also wanted to do whatever he could to win the hearts and minds of the Hessians. If even one came to see the virtue of America and lay down his arms, that would be a victory in the fight for our nation's freedom and independence. Mr. Speaker, I think we have heard some of the best arguments against this bill from General Washington's successors, the men and women who held top positions of responsibility in our armed forces. They have told us over and over again that if we ignore our country's long-standing commitment to the rules of war and international treaties like the Geneva Convention, we will be putting our own soldiers and our own nation at risk. Opening the door to detainee abuse and indefinite detention will make our soldiers more likely to be tortured and dehumanized should they fall into enemy hands. And that means our own country will be less safe. A world based on the rule of law is more safe, not less safe, than a world based on power alone. To argue that those who oppose this detainee bill want to let terrorists roam free is both wrong and illogical. Suspected terrorists who have evidence against them will be convicted by courts of law. They will stay behind bars. At the same time, a steadfast commitment to due process will both defend our most cherished freedoms and free the innocent from unwarranted punishment. Doing so will protect our liberty and deprive our enemies of one of the main tools that they are using to recruit their new followers. We will show the world that the United States practices what it preaches about freedom and democracy and human dignity. We will bring others over to our side and make them less likely to take up arms against us. There's a reason why Colin Powell recently warned us that the world is beginning to doubt the moral basis of our fight on terrorism. He said it because it's true, and because such a reality is a truly dangerous one. What is more, humane interrogation methods will prevent us from chasing after ghosts, from following the fleeting leads of false confessions born not from knowledge but from desperation. General Washington saw the value of a world based on law and principle over 200 years ago, and he saw it at a time when his fledgling nation was truly in a fight for its very survival. And for us to pass a bill today that abandons some of the most fundamental principles of the civilization that we have sworn to defend would be an insult to all those who came before us, to all those who fought and struggled so that we could live free. Mr. Speaker, it is such a respect for law and eternal principles that this administration and far too many in this Republican leadership lack. The proof lies in a provision of this bill which has received so little notice it is shameful, but that is profoundly revealing about its true nature. 10 years ago, Congress passed a law called the War Crimes Act. Under that bill, violating the Geneva Convention is a crime in the United States. The administration argued that the convention does not apply to enemy combatants, a term of its own invention, but the Supreme Court disagreed. In other words, the administration officials who have spent the last 5 years creating and directing our torture policy, as well as the government employees who have carried it out, could be liable for criminal prosecution for violating the War Crimes Act. And so they have decided in this bill to go back in time to 1997 and to rewrite the War Crimes Act to make their actions legal. And that's exactly what this bill does. To call this strategy cynical and self-serving, Mr. Speaker, is an understatement. When President Bush signs this bill, he will be signing away any responsibility for the potentially criminal policies that he and those in his administration have enacted during the past 5 years. When he signs this bill, he will be signing a pardon for himself and for all other architects of these disastrous, self-defeating, and immoral policies. But we have a choice here today. We can take a principled stand on behalf of the principles that make us great. We can choose to reject a future in which America can no longer honestly claim that it respects human rights. A future in which our own short-sighted, selfish, and immoral retreat into fear and suspicion has left us less safe, more isolated than ever before. We can choose to embrace our true nature and in so doing take a great step toward the creation of a world led by law and free from fear. It is our choice, Mr. Speaker, and I implore all of my friends in this body, please let us today make the right one, and I reserve the balance of my time.